help me God. It's just 4 words, but for a lot of people, it's a sacred seal of a promise that could never be broken. Now those words are no longer required as part of the honor oath at the U.S. Air Force Academy. Now, officials just last week made the phrase optional. They were responding to a complaint that it violated the constitutional guarantee of religious freedom. So let's talk about this with Chris Rada. He's with the Military Religious Freedom Foundation. That's the group that filed the complaint. And Ron Cruz, he's executive director of the Chaplain Alliance for Religious Liberty and a retired Army Reserve chaplain. Gentlemen, so glad to have both of you with us. Thank you. Chris, I want to start with you real quick. The Air Force Academy made the phrase, "So help me God," optional, didn't eliminate it altogether. Is that enough for you?
No, it's not. The words are still there. They really haven't changed anything. For them to just tell the cadets you don't have to say it is the same. That's what it was before. But they weren't telling the cadets they didn't have to say it, but it's really the same. There's no effect.
Okay, Chaplain Cruz, let me ask you. You've said making the phrase, "So help me God," optional, on the other side of this, sends a hostile message to cadets who do believe in God. How do you think this change affects them?
Well, we are disappointed in the Air Force once again bowing to a phone call or an email from Mr. Weinstein. This has been a pattern of the Air Force. Every time Mr. Weinstein complains about something, they seem to just immediately yield to him. And this phrase, "So help me God," has been a part of military tradition for generations. And it's a part of the military oath to this day. The same Air Force cadets, when they swear allegiance to become an officer in the United States Air Force, they're going to have that phrase again. And it has always been known among military circles that phrase is optional. So I commend the superintendent of the Air Force Academy for not striking this phrase. I believe she did the right thing in saying that this phrase is a part of the oath. It is a part of the oath, but it is optional. If someone is offended by that phrase, they don't have to say it. But for those cadets who come from households of faith, we are grateful that they will be able to continue to solemnize their oath as a cadet by being able to say those 4 words, "So help me God."
You know, Colonel Cruz is right in the sense that God is still very much a part of references to God, a huge part of our life here in the U.S. and in government. It's what the country was founded on. Initially, it's on our money. It's still in the Pledge of Allegiance. So, you know, does changing the oath at the Air Force Academy, Chris, it's an institution with just 4,000 cadets. Does it change anything for you?
It hasn't always been. The original military oaths written by the founders, 1789, did not contain the word "So help me God." That wasn't added for officers till 1862 and for enlisted till 1962. So this stuff about the founders is just dead wrong.
Hey, Chris, let me ask you, is it offensive to you because God is a very generalized term. So it's not specific to, you know, Christians or, you know, it's Christian, it's Jewish, it's Muslim. I mean, everybody has not everybody, but some people, most religions have God in them, and this is very generalized. Is that what's so frustrating
to you? But there's also a lot of people, not just atheists, but also many Christians who will not take oaths because they obey, I think it's Matthew 5:30 something that says, outright says, do not take oaths, simply say yes or no. And there's a lot of people, religious people. This isn't, we get paid this being an atheist organization. We're not. 96% of our clients are Christians. And so, you know, Mr. Cruz is always calling us an atheist organization, as certain other people do. That is just not the case. And this is this is not about an Establishment Clause First Amendment issue. This is about Article 6 of the Constitution, the No Religious Test Clause, which is why all of our oaths, when the founders wrote them, were an oath or affirmation and did not have the words "So help me God." And like I said, these weren't added until much later.
Okay, Chaplain Cruz, what is your response?
Well, I find it interesting that on the same day that this complaint was filed, in 1781, Congress heard of the American victory at Yorktown, and they immediately processed en masse to a church in Philadelphia to give thanks. That's what our founders did in 1781 when they heard the victory. Congress left the hall that they were meeting in, process together to a church to give thanks. That's the founding of our country.
Okay, but these stories of all the founders going en masse to church are not real. These are not true stories.
May I speak, Chris? I did not interrupt you. It's a very small minority of those who come from a faith tradition that find saying "So help me God" offensive. That's a very small minority.
Rights do not depend on majority or minority in this country. Rights depend on the Constitution, and the Constitution says no religious test. Having to swear an oath to God for someone who finds that wrong according to their religious beliefs, or
I'm
because
sorry.
they don't
I'm so sorry we've run out of time. I know that this is a debate that we could talk for a long time about, but Ron Cruz and Chris Rada, we appreciate both of you being here with us. Thank you. And we're going to be back right after the break.